So I'm here in Encinitas, Southern California, and I want to show something about tomato fungus and the growing of tomatoes. Now, we all know that tomato fungus, tomato blight is a huge problem with growing tomatoes, especially if they're in hoop houses where the humidity affects the prolific expansion of the spore profile. And of course, the soil that is infested with tomatoes allows it to become an ongoing problem every year. So what I'm going to show you is I'm growing in an area here. You can see it's a lot of shade, huge amount of shade. There's this sort of grandfathered raised bed here, and mulberry tree, cherry blossom tree, jacaranda, giving this vegetable area a huge amount of shade, which encourages the damp humidity to create a problem with tomato fungus. And last year it was a major issue. So this year I thought I'd throw on some organic calcium oxide because I heard from another farmer that it created a great solution to his tomato fungus problem. And the interesting thing about organic calcium oxide is it's a fairly new phenomenon. It's not understood or recognized in the academic world because it's such a rare phenomenon to have a limestone that naturally occurs with organic calcium oxide mixed in with the calcium carbonate. And there's a ancient freshwater limestone from an ancient lake bed near Fernley in Nevada that comes from a company that provides this organic crushed rock dust that is a mix of calcium oxide and calcium carbonate. So without further ado, I just want to show you the results. I want to draw the attention to this raised vegetable bed here. Now I have a lot of other vegetables growing. I've got about quite an extensive little baby farm here with no problems with tomato fungus because they get enough sun and there's not excessive humidity. Although even in an area down there where there's tomatoes, you normally get it, but I mixed calcium oxide down there and we've got none. However, the calcium oxide doesn't seem to work on the tree collard. Look at this leaf. Look at that tomato fungus. Look at this leaf. So the tree collard in the shade is perfect ground for this infestation. Now I want to look at the blue Italian kale. I'm going to rub a lot here. You see how it comes off. Let's do it again. Let's rub it, and you can see the real color of the leaf once I rub it there. Yeah, that's the whole kale looks like light blue Italian kale. It's completely covered. Interestingly enough, and must be strange, there's a variety of different tomato plants here. Where is the tomato fungus? Literally, there's a few dead leaves down there because they don't get any sun down in the base, but right beside the tree collard is something extraordinary. Tomatoes growing. I'm not saying that the tomato plant won't get any tomato fungus. I'm sure it will, but compared to last year, there's a dramatic resilience to the situation, and I'm amazed. So there's an artichoke that seems to be indifferent to tomato fungus. So anyway, there you have it. A very interesting comparison of vegetables growing together in a damp 90% shade area, and the fungus attacking the tree collard and the Italian blue kale. This kale doesn't seem to be too bothered by it. There's a bit on it, but it's definitely not affecting the growth. having said that, there's this huge misunderstanding in the academic world. A friend of mine, farmer in Northern California, was told by the agricultural department of Davis University to stop growing for 10 years. And maybe the infestation of the spores in the ground would go away. And that really wasn't an option. And he had a huge amount of experience, and he knew about this calcium oxide rich rock dust and applied it. And because of his experience, I did the same thing here. And I've got more tomato plants down here growing. Now, if you want to try to control tomato fungus, you don't plant all your tomatoes together. But that's what I've done, and it's just not an issue. Completely not an issue. There's no tomato fungus on this area of plants. And I'm not saying a little bit won't spread on it, but I'm very sure it won't affect the crop. And so I mix this rock dust into all my soil before planting. And and you can see I have just a huge bumper crop of my vegetables do incredibly well. Another wonderful quality about the tomato fungus influence of calcium oxide is it doesn't hurt the extremely rich soil living organisms. It's very environmentally friendly, and of course you don't put a huge concentration of it in. I probably, on these 5 or 6 tomato plants, I probably put about 6 handfuls of calcium oxide from the company actnevada.com. I think the product's called Act Pro Min, and I will be buying a lot more of it. I think it's an incredible product. Sometime after this video was recorded, I noticed some mildew finally starting on the tomato plants, but it was much too late in the season to noticeably affect the crop. However, I wanted to relay again that compared to the drastic tomato loss I had last year, and because this was the only procedure I did differently this year, I believe the organic fossiliferous limestone rock dust of 30 to 40% calcium oxide with its added calcium carbonate and 70 trace elements had a definite effect. Each year I always add some calcium via gypsum, so I don't think it's the calcium component that changed the plant's immunity. Next year I plan on applying more to see if it will create an even more mitigation. After shooting this video, I decided it'd probably be a good idea to get permission to put the website in the video from the owner of the company, Mr. Randy Messer, and we chatted on the phone. He gave permission, and we had an interesting discussion along some other lines that weren't brought up in the video regarding this unusual kind of limestone. And essentially the USDA, that's the United States Department of Agriculture, doesn't allow calcium oxide to be used for organic farming. Regular farmers use it a lot, but the reason for that is because it's synthetically made or artificially made using crushed limestone with extreme heating with coal, gas, oil, other heating fuels, and consequently it's considered synthetic. Well, the other problem with it, of course, is it goes on the extreme scale of alkalinity, quicklime, calcium hydroxide, those kinds of agricultural supplements, which in turn will have a very negative impact on the microflora organisms in the soil. And you know, when you think about the microorganisms in the soil, just a shovelful of soil will have microinvertebrates, pathogens, bacteria, fungus, a host of other exotic microscopic creatures. So many, in fact, that a shovelful of soil will probably have a greater population than the humans on the planet Earth. One of the greatest looming disasters in America that's happening right now is farmers have dramatically destroyed the organic, nutritional aspect of their soil by destroying the pathogens. And when you spray tomatoes in calcium chloride, that doesn't do any good to the soil. The organic farmers who may spray garlic, apple cider vinegar, a host of antibacterial solutions have to do it on a regular basis. So this I found to be the best, most potent, simplest way of eliminating tomato mildew that I know of. So getting permission to put the website on the video was great. Reading the testimonial of Dr. Dan Pringle and hearing more about it from Randy Messer was really fascinating. There seems to be a critical need for tomato growers to use this supplement. I will say I don't think it eliminates, obviously, tomato mildew on other vegetables. So I don't think it evidently can't harm the bacteria in the soil, because I think it's more of a supplement that protects the immunity of the tomato plant. And I say that because there wasn't any breakdown in the tree collard or the Italian blue kale or even the other kale from not having a lot of mildew on them. In fact, it was almost 100% over the blue kale. The other thoughts that I had regarding my research in eliminating this problem is that it could be the trace elements with the limestone. This type of limestone is it's unique, because it's important to understand that the calcium oxide in this limestone was created by prospectively subterranean volcanic activity, creating extreme heat over a prolonged period of time, which turned the calcium carbonate into a calcium oxide. There's no other limestone deposit in the world that I know of like this. There's a tiny one in South Africa, but it's not very commercially viable. Consequently, the scientific community and the ag departments of different universities don't know about the fact that if you create a limestone that's partially calcium carbonate with a few trace elements and calcium oxide, it may dramatically boost the immunity of the tomato plant to not allow a prolific level of damage with tomato fungus or tomato blight, tomato mildew, etc. That's a very big key in the puzzle, part of the puzzle, to understand that this calcium oxide only existed because naturally the geological activity of extreme heat changed the calcium carbonate into calcium oxide. That's evidently obvious because in northern Nevada there's a lot of geothermal power stations. There's a lot of subterranean heat in a lot of areas around and close to the mine or the quarry that Randy Messer digs up. And historically this material was used as a secondary supplementary fertilizer back in the 1890s and 1900s, but it got pretty much cleaned up by the NPK revolution. But little did we know that NPK was going to do so much damage to the microflora. The soil integrity of America at the moment is reached a critical disaster stage, and the only solution to get another year's crop is to add more extreme fertilizers. So this is a fertilizer as well, but this video is primarily about witnessing this extraordinary lack of tomato mildew on the tomatoes and offering it as a solution to other tomato growers. Thank you very much for listening this far. And if I find out any more, I'll try and do another video. All the best.